Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show. It is a privilege and honor to welcome back to the show Debbie Lesko, proudly representing Arizona's 8th Congressional District. How are you, Congresswoman Lesko? How are you, Debbie?
I'm great, Seth. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing just fine, thank you. Always nice to hear from you. And like this bill, I want to talk to you about it on that you just introduced to deter states from providing driver's license to illegal immigrants. But before we get to that, or take it any way you want, but I did want to get from you some thoughts on where we are on combating illegal immigration. It's this interesting thing. The Democrats keep saying it's the Republicans' fault. It's some kind of psychological projection, huh, Debbie?
Yeah, well, they want to cast blame on Republicans any way they can, but there's no one else to blame except President Biden and the Democrats. I mean, it's very obvious. On day one that President Biden got in office, he stopped construction of the border wall. I talked to people in Yuma, Arizona, Jonathan Lines, who's a county supervisor down there. Yeah. And he said that, like almost 2 years ago now, the Biden administration promised them that they were going to close the gaps that are in the border wall right now in Yuma, and they still haven't done it. I mean, they want an open border. And so let's just look at the numbers for the difference. Okay, so in May of this year, over 204,000 people were apprehended at the border trying to get into the United States. And compare that to May of 2020 when Trump was in office, it was 23,237. So 23,000 versus 205,000.
Debbie, that sounds like the difference.
May of this year.
That sounds like the difference between historic low and historic high.
It's a difference in policy.
Yeah.
So under Trump, the amount of people trying to get in was much lower. Under Biden, because he welcomes everybody basically from around the world, it's much higher. And then if you talk about the fiscal year at the southwest border in 2020, when Trump was in power, the total amount in fiscal year 2020 was 458,000 illegal immigrant apprehensions. And just this year alone, in the first 8 months of fiscal year 23, 1.6 million apprehensions. That's just in 8 months compared to under Trump, much less. Then you talk about the drug seizures. All right. In May of 2020, when Trump was in power, there was 240 pounds per month of fentanyl. Guess what it is now? May of 2023, 2.7 thousand pounds of fentanyl per month that have been seized. And there's a lot, obviously, that hasn't been seized. And we don't know how much hasn't been seized. And then the gotaways, and these are the ones that we really have to worry about, is the people that run away from Border Patrol because they probably have criminal records already in the United States, so they know that they'll be deported, or they're on the terrorist watch list, or some other nefarious reason. And we suspect that there is 1.5 million gotaways under the Biden administration. And those are people that have been detected either by sensors or by cameras, but the Border Patrol hasn't been able to catch them. And of those amounts of people that have come in that were caught, there are, 125 people just in the first 8 months of this fiscal year whose names are on the terrorist watch list. And those are just the ones that we caught. So this is a huge problem, and it's because of Biden and the Democrats. They want an open border. And the Border Patrol officers, instead of being able to do their job, all they're doing is processing basically tourists into the United States. I mean, they're kind of like travel agents because they process them, they get them on planes, they get them on buses, they go all through the United States. That's what they're doing while the cartels are making billions of dollars smuggling people and smuggling drugs. It's just pathetic.
And we haven't even talked about the cost of all of this, which runs into, I've seen estimates that the cost of this per year to the United States taxpayer might be as high as $150 billion a year. It might be lower. That actually might be an undercount or an underestimate if you think about, dealing with all the crime and other issues that come along with it. I mean, this is a perfect storm. Deadly drug cartels, crime in our communities, terrorists entering the country, human and sex trafficking. Debbie, it seems to me that we can only go on so long before this becomes irreversible.
Well, yes, and this is a prime example of why elections have consequences, and one of the prime reasons why people have to vote, and quite frankly, why people have to vote for candidates that want to secure the border.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, President Biden campaigned on keeping the border open and inviting more illegal immigrants here. And of course, President Trump did not. He wanted to secure the border. And one of my pieces of legislation that I have introduced would actually reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy, which is one of the main things that we can do to stop the flow of illegal immigration. And the Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives months ago now passed a border security bill that includes that out of the House. Now it's dead in the Senate. And that is, again, a prime example of why elections have consequences. Because in the Senate, it's a Democrat majority. More Democrats were elected than Republicans. And that's why the next U.S. Senate seat in Arizona is so important, because you have Ruben Gallego, the Democrat, who's a big open border guy. We don't want him in there.
No.
And so people need to get involved because this is a very important issue. Now, my Red Light Act would withhold federal highway funds from states that provide driver's license or identification cards to illegal immigrants. I don't think they should have them, and I don't think states that provide driver's license to illegal immigrants should get federal highway funds.
Well, good for you. I thank you for that and the Red Light Act and that update and everything you're doing to stay focused on it. I've been down there like you. I think Jonathan Lyons has led my last two tours when I was there. Let me tell people, if they want to help learn more about your Red Light Act or anything else, go to your website, lesko.house.gov. And I also want to give out your Twitter account because people should be retweeting your information. The information has to get out there. Your handle is at Rep D Lesko, at Rep D Lesko. Debbie, thank you for the update. Really appreciate it and your hard work on this.
Thank you so much, Seth.
You bet.
I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. That means a lot. Debbie Lesko, proudly representing our 8th Congressional District. Common sense, and really, when you think about what she's standing up for here, the whole country